When I was a kid, I was very shy, and I used to go to like dinner parties or whatever with family and whatever, and I was always the kid who didn't like to talk to people. And they go, here's a box of crayons, go find a corner and just, go entertain yourself, and we'll tell you when we're gonna go home. And I'm like, great. So I really go find a corner with a box of crayons, and I'm like, oh, I'm so happy. I mean, even though art for the most part is still a very individual kind of craft, but I still look at it like in my head having a party. And all of a sudden it became not like an isolated, thing. It became like a social thing to create. And my whole life as a kid growing up, all my memories are like just making stuff with my friends, with my family. And art always became like a party, not like, that sad cliche artist in the corner trying to deal with their anger and frustration, and that thus you create. For me, it was always a joyous thing, and art always meant like, let's have the best time possible with like, whatever medium you want to choose. I'm Indian. I come from an Indian household, obviously, an Indian family. So my whole childhood was color. So much color. Everything about my childhood became part of how I created. The painting style became a lot of what I grew up with. And I'm not a formal, I didn't train as a painter. I didn't do like figure drawing classes or all the proper stuff you're supposed to do. I came at it purely by looking at Indian art around the house and all that stuff. So my entire life has been just like a colorful existence. Enjoy the ride. I think that kind of goes back to the whole thing about like it really is the journey. The best example I could give you is I remember I just had that show on 6th Street, the Rohitash Record show, and for a week putting a show together, I went there every night to the gallery. Probably got like maybe a 6-pack, at least a couple of beers. And I would go to the gallery, and I made it just made it fun. I'm like, you know what? We're gonna like hang that side of the room tonight, just to myself. Get a ladder, open a beer, make a playlist. I love making playlists. Make a playlist. I'm like, this is gonna be the hanging, art playlist. And I just put on the music, and no one. I mean, the door's closed, no one's there. Just me by myself, just hanging out, dancing, putting up art. And I walk out and I'm like, all right, cool, that side's done. Go home, come back the next day, put up the next wall, and then finally opening night. And then all of a sudden, like the room, you had a relationship with this room. You in this room, like we're like hanging out. You and your, like we're like buddies. We're like hanging out every night, like drinking beer together, like, putting the thing. Then all of a sudden now we got to share each other to a whole, group of people who are coming in, which is the whole point of the show, obviously, and I get that. But it was kind of also a moment of sadness because I'm like, oh, this experience is gone. That like setting up the show is gone. Then a whole nother experience happened, which is like the fucking party. And it's just like people and people and people, and it's fun and bands and whatever.
Project at Rohitash Records.
And then finally the show's done. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sad, I'm a little bummed, but I'm like, this show's done. I'm gonna make a fun time of taking it down. Playlist, get a beer, taking it down, putting it all in piles, nice and like thing, and then put it all in the car. And I usually just like thank the room when I walk out every gallery show. I'm like, just thank the gallery, thank the room, thank like just the experience. And it's gone. And every part of it was a different version of the journey, and I enjoyed every single part of it. I made every single part of it part of the why, I'm like, I'm gonna make this fun because that's the whole point. It's my intention to make it fun. It's my intention to make this just like the most joyous thing ever. And that way, like, I'm not like, that one opening night is the only fun part. No, that's not, the fun part was when I walked in with a playlist and a six-pack. Like it began fun from the minute I walked in the door. And then kind of in a weird way, like you're celebrating each step along the way. So thus you're not waiting for that one finish line. The whole process is just like, the fun, you're making the journey fun. Yeah, so I think the one thing that I try to do, which I think my parents, to be honest, didn't do as much now as they do for their grandkids, which is like, don't worry about the business card solution. Just try to figure out what is in here and make that like your goal. Because if you just try to answer your own self, what your version is irrelevant, because you're constantly trying to just live up to your own voice. In fact, there's a great talk by Steven Spielberg talking about the voice. I've been calling it for a long time my 4 a.m. voice. The 4 a.m. voice is that thing that keeps you up at night. It says like, hey, weren't we going to make that screenplay? Hey, weren't we going to make that film? Hey, weren't we going to animate that thing? And that's what you have to answer to. And I think if that goes away, which for me as a kid like haunted me, because I thought if that went away, then what? Like that voice shuts up. I was so scared of that voice shutting up. So for whenever I see any student like have any like rough even potential, I'm like, that's what you have to answer to. Not to me, not to your parents, not to whoever your boss maybe one day, is you got to live up to that and let that guide you, because that's the only way you're going to, I think, end every day feeling somewhat accomplished and fulfilled. I don't think you can aim for happiness, but I think you can aim for being fulfilled, and I think fulfilled will eventually lead to happiness. So if you do that, then I think you'll be fine. You'll be completely fine. But also, like, you're never done also, because you're just answering that voice, that version of you. And there is no finish line. Like, I can do this one day, then I can do that the next day, then I can do that birds the next day. They're all versions of me. One isn't better than the other, in my opinion. It's just a different style and a different voice that needs to be, heard. But if that's all I'm trying to worry about, then what a great endless journey. But also, man, I end every day going, okay, we got that. Cool, we did that. We thought we didn't know we could, and we did it, and I feel good about today. Yeah, because it's the journey. It's just the journey. Yeah, I mean that's the part that I think what I love. I mean I'm enjoying like the process, and the process is everything. And that's all I think about. Because all you're worried about is what you're working on now. I'm not going backwards. I'm not like sitting there like except at my studio, I don't really look at my own art. Why would you? So I'm always worried about what I'm working on now. And even right now, I've got a deadline that I'm part of a group show in the gallery in Los Angeles, and that's all I'm worried about. I'm worried about that painting, and all I'll be thinking about is that painting until I physically like put it in the mail and get it out of my life, and then I'll go on the next painting. But that's it. I'm just constantly making the next thing, and like I said, I think before, like I'm not going to get done. I'll be dead before I'm done. Which is fine, because the process is all I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the end result.